Right, hey guys. So my name is Vino Silva, and today I'll be talking to you guys about making a standout portfolio that gets you hired. I'm an experienced front-end engineer with 5 years plus of experience. Before that, I was a gameplay programmer at Streamline Studios. So in total, I have about 7 years of software engineering experience. So I'm gonna share with you guys uh, my experience of what gets you hired. Yeah, let's start this. So first, we need to know what's the purpose of a portfolio. I know everyone thinks, okay, portfolio is basically it impresses someone and then they hire you. But there's actually a lot of other reasons why portfolio is needed. So I'm gonna go through it one by one. The first thing is your portfolio will be ran through by the hiring manager, and when they suggest you to the lead developer and so on to actually vet through your profile, they want to see a portfolio which can reduce their perceived risk. And what I mean by that is, see, they're going to sign an agreement with you and hire you. They want you to be able to solve their problem for them. Okay, let's say they have maybe their current software engineer is going to step down, and then they need you to take over their place, and they need you to be as competent as the software engineer who's leaving, and the portfolio should convince them of that. It should also show them that you are able to make an impact. And what I mean by that is, for example, let's say one of your projects had you in a situation where you have to work with very large number of data, millions of rows in your database and all that. Those are stuff which you can include inside your portfolio. And maybe you are building a pet project and you purposely make a pet project with a huge amount of data, and then you can actually include that in the description of your pet project as well, that this pet project has millions of rows, you optimized it. Those are proof of your impact. Okay, and whenever they're hiring you, they want you to have that same impact in their company. Okay, so the next point would be interview banter material. And what I mean by that is, whenever the lead developer or CTO wants to do an interview with you, you gotta have something you want to talk about, right? To actually keep the conversation flowing. So it can work as an excellent interview banter material, because you can tell your CTO, the CTO who's interviewing you, hey, this is a project which I worked on, and then he'll start asking questions about it, like, oh, what tech stack did you use? What was your challenge you faced? Uh, Most probably, most of the time, if you're building a pet project, you're going to make it public, and then you can actually run through the code with the CTO or the person interviewing you. I've had such a situation before where I applied for a job and the guy told me, hey, show me your best project on your repo, and then let's go through the code together. So I've had such situations before. So it can function as a interview banter material. And the fifth point would be fallback material. And what I mean by that is, guys, sometimes you're going to be working for startups or some companies which are going to work on certain products, and that product might never let's say, for example, you're working on a productivity app in a startup, right? Maybe after 2 years that startup might close down, and that productivity app might not be available in the Play Store anymore. Okay, in those kind of situations, when you apply for the next job or the subsequent job, you can at least although you can include it inside your resume that you have worked on this in this startup and on this product, maybe with some screenshots. But if you want to show a live product, you can then go back to your pet projects, because if the product's already taken down from the Play Store, then you can't show that live anymore. So that is why we sometimes do a portfolio, to have a sort of fallback material. So yeah. And the last one is pretty obvious. It's to actually grow your skills as well. Okay, that's a very obvious point. I'll move on to the next slide. So I'll tell you what makes a good portfolio. It gives you clarity, it tells you what you do and what your strengths are, and it gives you relevance. Have you worked on projects similar to their projects? So I've had an interview where the person going through my portfolio asked me if I've worked on a low code app similar to theirs. And if you have worked on a project similar to theirs, that is actually a plus point for you. So yeah, that is another plus of having a good portfolio. The consistency, uh, whenever you're building your first few years as a software engineer, you're going to use very similar tech stacks. So let's say if you're someone who uses Golang for backend and front end, maybe use React, you're going to build your first few projects, first 10 or couple of projects using that tech stack, and that is consistent throughout your entire portfolio. So people who are hiring for those tech stacks, or yeah, those particular tech stacks, would notice, okay, you are someone who has done a lot of work in this area, in this using this technology. So yeah, that would appeal to those people. The others are pretty self-explanatory. Communication skills. How well do you explain your thinking? So from how you describe your projects, and the problems you face and how you solve it, whenever you state it inside your portfolio, it lets the person know you're someone who can communicate really well. And that is something which people really want, because if you're an extremely good software engineer but you can't communicate, you are actually going to have some issues delivering your task, and you're going to have issues helping others to deliver their task as well. So yeah, communication skills is very important. And last but not least, growth mindset. They want to see that you are actually improving across your projects. And what that means is that whenever they see someone who can by themselves already try to grow aggressively, right? They know that you do the same with the projects in their company. They know that you're going to improve the quality of it. They know that you are going to introduce something new into the project which will maybe make it better, maybe improve the workflow. There's a lot of areas where things can be improved, from project management to how you manage your repo, to how you manage the code quality and growth. Whenever you show them that you have a growth mindset, they know that you'll improve all of these areas as well. So yeah, next question is what to show to the people who are hiring you. And if you ask me, the first thing is always pick quality or quantity. The thing which interests me the least is someone who has 200 projects, but the projects are not very in depth. They just do a very like, okay, let me do, each project has two features or something like that, and there's not much depth in it. So like for example, maybe you build like 20 or 30 types of projects which like to do apps or something like around that level. Okay, yes, you have 20 to 30 projects, which is impressive, but why not maybe you start with a to do app, and then maybe you go and build a productivity app, and then you build a Pomodoro app, and then you make a blog or a social media front end. You see the levels of it keep increasing, because whenever you build something which is large in scale, you automatically need to know how to make your code very clean and highly performant. Okay, so whenever you can do that, when you go into your when you get hired into your company, you can bring that skills there as well. Okay. Okay, so the next criteria is each project should tell a story. So I'll be using my portfolio website as an example. Okay, so let's look at each project should tell a story here. Let's go to my portfolio website, and I just made a simple one line, like build a vehicle management platform for our client Rivalia, enabling streamlined handling of quotations, fleet equipment, and overall vehicle operations. So it's just a one line, but if another company which is doing a vehicle management platform reads this, they'll go, okay, this is exactly what we are doing, and it this guy is certainly someone we want to hire. So maybe include an image, and then just add like minor information on it. Like in this case, I add that what tech stack I use and all of that, and when did I start working on it. Yeah. So in this case, it's a private dashboard, so I can't show a public link. So the only thing I can do is show a single image. This is one of the reasons why you need portfolios as well, because a lot of projects you're going to work on is private, maybe it's a private dashboard and you can't exactly show information of it. Even this image I'm showing right now is a mock-up image done by my designer. It's not an actual screenshot of the app itself. So yeah, this is a real life project I've worked on. Okay, so gonna head back over here. Then so hero section, who you are, what do you do, and your value proposition in one sentence. If you go to the home page, it says my name, what's my job position, and what do I do. I specialize in building custom dashboards. So that's simple as that. So basically, with this thing is just handled over here. Okay, contact, social links, make it easier for recruiters to reach you. So I have a social contacts link over here to the top right, or they can just click over here itself to go to my page, my LinkedIn, my GitHub, my email. So they can just click on it to get it. Okay, tech stacks or expertise areas, make it concise. So what I like to do is I like to basically just make a section like this that just tells what do I use for front end, what do I use for back end, what I use for a different section. Maybe you're a machine learning engineer. Maybe you can add a section called machine learning over here, and then you can add all the stuff you use inside, like NumPy or TensorFlow or stuff like that. Just make it concise. So because when the person just scrolls down, they just see, okay, oh, okay, he has the tech stack which I'm using, he also knows this. I'm happy. I'm going to move into the next round. About explain your journey, this is, I just kept it simple, but you can just start with a simple story over here. Like for me, I personally jumped from game programming into web dev, so I just wrote that as my sort of story. So you just keep it simple, and then you tell what type of tech stack you use inside while for most of your time working as a front end engineer. In my case, is React, TypeScript, Redux, right? So yeah, the important thing is to include visuals because people like to see more than they like to read. So in the cases like this, I would just include images of the project. So people would just look at those instead. So yeah, so kind of important to include visuals for your project. In the case of backend projects, you don't have visuals, which is fine. So you can just put maybe the picture of maybe a backend, some kind of stock photo, backend photo, or something like that. But in the case of backend projects, I think it's better that you include more description, and if you can send them to the source code so they can view it themselves. Okay, you can do extra stuff as well, like maybe you are a blogger on medium.com, or you have testimonials on LinkedIn. You can show that as well. Okay, in my case, I'm not a blogger, but there are some people who like to blog about tech stuff on medium.com, so you can maybe include that as well. Some people like that, those kind of stuff. So next question is what to build, and I would say start with your skill level. For example, if you're a beginner React developer, you can start with to-do apps, markdown apps, and so on. And then you can get a list of increasing difficulty project to build. And what I mean by that is you can just easily Google one of these lists, okay? And it will give you like, okay, beginner level, intermediate level, okay, going down. Yeah, if you ask me, even this already includes a lot of like expert level stuff already. So you can get a lot of this list online. Okay, so the reason why I didn't include one in my slide is because this really depends on you, where your skill level is and what you're doing. You could be a mobile developer, a backend developer, or a front end developer, or doing machine learning. You can find all sorts of list of projects to work on for your pet project online. Okay, but eventually go niche. And what I mean by that is maybe work on something which excites you, or you use, like for example, a Miro clone. Maybe you use Miro on a day-to-day basis and you want to make a Miro clone, or you can build a low code app. something which is a bit unique and stands out, you can actually go for this kind of stuff eventually once your skill level is good. Okay. Next is AI recommendations, but if pretty much AI just gets its information by scraping internet anyway. So yeah, but you can ask ChatGPT or something for like a top 10 project to what do I say, to learn ASP, to learn what tech stack you're using. So hey, so you can just do something. Right. So meanwhile, it's prompting. We'll go to the next point. This is something that pushes your boundary. Yeah. So don't stay in a comfort zone. See, as more than impressing someone, you also need to improve your skills. So if you're constantly only doing beginner level projects like to do apps or markdown apps, you're never going to progress. So you got to ask or got to do stuff which actually pushes your boundaries, so you keep learning new stuff. You can also do something which is, maybe you want to build a project which is similar to your target company's product. So let's say you want to work for Airbnb, okay, and you know how does Airbnb's app look like, right? What if you build a clone Airbnb project that could actually appeal to Airbnb or anyone? Maybe if you're building a house renting app or something like that, you can build a clone house renting app. So yeah, that's one way to go about things. So you can build similar projects to your target company's product. Next is build in public. So if you have done something like a bit on the larger side, things which you think are which are noteworthy and all that, you can just post it on blogs or LinkedIn. And whenever you post stuff on LinkedIn, the algorithm kind of shows you to more people, right? And that way, the people might actually reach out to you to hire you and stuff like that. Okay. So yeah, yeah. Then you can just get a list of projects to do it, and and pretty much ChatGPT already increases the difficulty as you go from project 1 to 10. Then yeah. So where do you show your portfolio, right? So there's a couple of places. If you're a designer, you could use something like Behance, but mostly if you're a software engineer, you use GitHub, GitLab, and especially if you're a front end, as someone who works with UI and all that, you should build your own website, like I have over here, because that is something which is asked by people whenever you go to websites, company's website, and you apply for the job, they'll actually ask for your portfolio website. So yeah, that's actually a big plus to have your own portfolio website, right? So these are places where you could show your portfolio. Next is analyzing your portfolio, and this is very important because portfolio is a way for you to market yourself, and you need to have information on, is your marketing working or not. Okay, so the first way you could go is feedback from your peers. You could ask your lecturer, or maybe your friend, or maybe a coworker who you trust, on asking them if your portfolio is good enough or not. So I once had this situation where one of the employee in my company left, and then he asked me, could I help him build a website or design his resume for him. And after seeing his initial resume and website, I helped him to redesign and gave him feedback on how to improve his portfolio. So never think that your peers can't give you, even your coworker could give you a very good feedback on how to build your portfolio. Next is Google Analytics. So like this website, I've actually included Google Analytics in it. So currently, there's not nothing much going on because I'm not actively applying for jobs. But when you apply for jobs, you'll actually start seeing how do I say, data here. You'll actually know how long people have spent on your website, what page they have viewed, which countries they have viewed it from. So these are actually very crucial information. If you use LinkedIn and you have like LinkedIn Premium, you can see who has looked at your profile, right? So stuff like that. So yeah, this is very important information. Actually, know that have see you build a portfolio website, right? You need to know if people are actually looking at your website. So that is something very important actually. So yeah, use something like Google Analytics. There are other analytics as well. I'm pretty sure you guys can Google and then like to find which analytics suits you the best. And next, you have comparing other portfolios out there. There are plenty of places to compare with other portfolios. You can just Google them. But one of the places which I go to frequently is Dribble. Dribble has a lot of sample portfolios you can take a look at. This can actually inspire you on how to build your own website as well. So yeah, you can just go over here and then take a look at all of these websites. So this is something which I do. I compare my website against others to see maybe I'm missing a section, or maybe a certain design of mine is not good enough. So yeah, you can do that as well. Uh, so let me go back into presentation mode. Next, I'll talk about career growth as well, because I find portfolio gives you the skill and it convinces people that you're worthy of hiring, right? But there's also in order to be successful, you need skill and opportunity, and I want to talk a bit about how to make that opportunity as well, right? So if you ask me, one of the biggest ways to actually get have growth in your career is to get recommendations, and recommendations would be like from people like your family, your friends, your lecturer, university peers, your coworkers. Family, most of the time they will just, because they already know you, they trust you, they're going to, I mean, family and friends are the same. They are, most of the time they're going to recommend you because they know you, they trust you. But here's the thing about lecturers, and it's kind of important. In a lot of university, there are lecturers who, some of them who are very how to say, more strict on the marking system, and some of them who are more, how to say, they let you easily pass. Not saying that this is always the case, but most of the time, the lecturers who are more stricter, they tend to have better networks in the industry. But then again, it's subjective. But what I would say is that try to find a lecturer who you can who has good industry ties. And sort of the ways that you can get to know your lecturer better is that you can actually after class go reach out to your lecturer, ask him questions, because the lecturer's job is teach, right? But if you are someone who actually ask a lot of questions to your lecturer and all that, the lecturers will know that you're paying attention and they'll actually start liking you more, and that is actually an advantage to you. Second is that if you do final year project, pick a lecturer who has who can recommend you to very good companies, right? So basically those are the two ways, if you ask me, which allows you to sort of network with your lecturer, and your lecturer itself will recommend you to very good companies. Okay. Next is coworkers. Okay. Okay, so I sort of want to talk about this. This is kind of important when you're working in a company. See, if you're skilled and you're getting all the tasks done, that is great. But if you're kind of toxic, no one is going to recommend you when you need to change jobs, because they sort of don't like you. So I'm not saying be nice to everyone because of that, but I'm trying to say just be a very objective developer. Your job, you come in, you do your job, you help others, and then you foster a good culture. That way, whenever those people leave the company and go to other companies, they are more willing to recommend you, because they know that you are not problematic and you can get the job done. If you're very skilled but you're a problematic person, people are not going to hire you. So that is something else you got to think about, when especially when you're already working in a company. So yeah, uh, this is something which I skipped by, which is okay, let's say you're working in a company right now, and let's say you're a front end developer and they tell you to, okay, develop this UI and that and this and that, right? There are some stuff they don't tell you to do, but it's good for you to do. And what I mean by that is, for example, let's say your company never tells you to do performance optimization, never tells you to keep a code convention, or never tells you to run tests. I've worked in a couple of companies where they don't do tests at all. They don't do testing, but I myself do the testing myself because I want to acquire the knowledge and I want to be professional. I want to be a senior developer, right? So you can actually start including stuff into your work which will help you to grow. If your thought process is, oh, if they didn't ask me to do it, so I don't need to do it, you're right, but at the same time, you don't grow as well. So when I mean be a star employee, I don't mean or stay up very late, tell, uh, do OT unpaid. I don't mean that. I mean be a quality developer, even when people don't explicitly ask that from you, because let's say right now you're working on a project, you do performance optimization, you do code conventions, uh, you do unit testing, integration testing all by yourself. You can include that inside of your portfolio. You can say, hey, these are the stuff which I introduced. Okay, so now your portfolio is going to look even nicer because the guy's going to read your portfolio and go, oh, this guy did all of this on himself. So I don't need to handhold him when he's in the company. He's autonomous and he will get the work done. So yeah. So yeah, I mean, this is a topic I believe was covered last week for you guys. It's about networking. I'm just gonna go through a few ways where you can network, some points over here. It's a very brief section, but maybe it might be helpful for you guys. Number one is Discord servers. There's plenty of Discord servers for software engineers. You can join there and sort of mingle, get to know people. For all you know, maybe that one person who you helped solve an issue, right? He might actually recommend you for a job, or he might give you information about a new position which is coming out. LinkedIn is the very obvious one, so I'm just including here just for completeness. Uh, the third one is something which is very unique, but hear me out on this. It says living a fulfilling life, having other hobbies. Because if your only thing you're doing in life is just software engineering, then you're actually limiting yourself. So let's say right now, maybe on Saturdays you join a hiking group to go hiking, or maybe on Sundays you go for a board game. You go and meet a board game group. These are new friends you're making, and for all you know, they might hear of an opportunity or they could recommend you for a job also as well. Okay, or maybe one of them wants to have an e-commerce project and then they ask you because they know you, right? Trust is a very important commodity actually to actually give you projects and stuff. Fourth is seek mentorships. uh, yeah, you can actually, for example, if you're in a company or you're in the university or something, you can actually approach a programmer who's more experienced than you and ask them certain questions. Most of the time, people are more than willing to share their experience with you, and that's how you kind of build a rapport with them, right? And even they'll remember, like, oh, this guy is actually interested enough in software engineering or whatever field it is that he's coming out of his way to come and talk to me. So that actually builds an impression on you. And the fifth is have an active project you're working on, because that is actually a question which a lot of people ask you during, like, even when you're networking or you're going to programmer meet. They're like, oh, hey, what are you working on right now? And make sure to work on something interesting and just have something which you keep adding features to over time, just for the fun of it. That way you have a certain you're not just growing your skills, you also have a certain topic which you can easily bring up, like, hey, I'm building this productivity app on using React Native, and I use it daily, and right now 100 people are using it. That is something interesting and people would love to know more about it, and you can build a rapport. The sixth one, I've already mentioned this in previous slide. So yeah. Seven is there is actually a website where they host events, and sometimes they have events for programming sometimes, so you can just check it out uh, over here. So like for example, they have Monash Blockchain Industry Night. They have it on 17 October. Then you can maybe go here and register for it. You can go there if you're interested in blockchain. So yeah, you can actually just check this website and see for events and go network. So yeah, that's one another way you can do it. And if you ask me, we are all people, and networking takes practice. It's okay if you go to the first few meet and you don't know how to talk properly. Like, it's fine. Everyone starts at different places, and you just have to keep practicing. All right. Okay. And we are all in sales, and you are the product. So just think of it. Think of yourself as a product, and you have to sort of sell yourself, right? So just learn. Maybe if you want, you can even learn some marketing stuff and all that, and how to talk like a marketer, and you sort of sell yourself when you are when you're talking to people. And if you ask me, a sort of tip I would give is read up on tech news a lot, because a lot of software engineers actually do that. They actually read up on tech news, like maybe Elon Musk did something, maybe a certain service got hacked, maybe there was a DDoS attack on this. So you can talk about all this stuff, and people will be very interested to how to say to further converse with you. If you don't have anything to talk about, then the conversation's going to be kind of dry, and you might not go anywhere with it. So yeah. Yeah, so that would be pretty much my presentation. Do you guys have any questions? Okay, so there is a question from Sue, which is what's the bare minimum to have in one's portfolio? Okay, if you ask me bare minimum, right, you should at least bare minimum have a CRUD app. So a CRUD app stands for create, read, update, delete. So it could be anything like, for example, if you are doing a to-do app, then you are doing a CRUD app for to-do. So you can create a to-do, you can update a to-do, you can read a to-do. Read means basically display the to-do, delete a to-do. So that is the bare minimum. Bare minimum is a CRUD app. Okay. The if you want to improve on that, that's when you have the other stuff like authentication, optimization, yeah, stuff like that. That's the bare minimum would be a CRUD app. But again, this depends on the kind of job you're going for. So if you're going for an intern or junior, then I would say CRUD app with authentication in it. If you're going for middle level, then you're gonna need a more larger project, maybe like an e-commerce project, a customized dashboard. Yeah. So I hope that answered your question. So yeah. Okay, that's some typing. Okay, so okay, the question is what advice you can give for someone who is newbie and want to step in web dev career. Okay, so I'll start with the Malaysian web dev ecosystem, and I'll tell you something. In Malaysia, we don't do it like Western countries. Western countries, maybe they have a front end developer, a back end developer, and then they have something called a staff engineer. A staff engineer is someone who does full stack, or they have a full stack developer. In Malaysia, we start off with full stack. It's very hard to find dedicated front end or back end jobs. Most time people want full stack. So what I would suggest you to do is to actually build a couple of front end projects, a couple of back end projects, and to actually be a full stack developer from the get go, because Malaysia's market is always full stack. Even companies, when they hire interns, they want them to start working on full stack already. So yeah. So what I would suggest to you is to first go full stack. Second is to actually do the all networking steps I have suggested inside this presentation, because honestly, the bigger issue is that nowadays there's a large volume of applicants for almost any job position available, and the only thing which is going to cut you through it is networking actually. So yeah. Also, I want to further elaborate on on the type of tech stack maybe you can use. Malaysia, for the most part, they use something like ASP.NET, React, Vue.js. They use like this kind of tech stacks. So what I would suggest you to do is to actually look at uh, job listings and see what are the most common type of tech stacks they ask for here in Malaysia. I mean, yeah, and then learn that. At the same time, make sure it is something which you are interested in as well. If you're purely learning something just to be hired, you'll get kind of bored and unmotivated. So you gotta actually find an overlap. Okay, so Sue asked about networking. Sue said, wanna ask, networking needs practicing and going out there. In your opinion, with examples, what's the first thing to do or say when going networking and approaching someone? Is it like a name or what I'm doing right now, projects I'm working for? Okay, so usually how I would go about it is I'll say hello. I'll say like who like what I'm doing. Like I'll say hello. I'm Vino. I'm a front end engineer. I work mostly on customized dashboards and all this stuff. Nice to meet you. And from there on, most people will just give their own name and what they do, and then you can start asking questions based on that, and then you can roll the conversation from there. So for the most part, maybe the guy will say, "Hey, my name is Steve. I'm a backend developer. I mainly work on like finance." Then you can say, "Oh, is it similar to this app because this is this?" So at the end of the day, you gotta have a certain, how to say, knowledge on the industry as well. If let's say the guy says that he works on finance apps and you don't know anything about finance apps, you can still ask like, "Oh, how did you get started in that industry?" You can ask people like any questions the relating to their career. I think most people are more than open to talk about it. Or maybe let's say I'm a front end engineer and the other guy is a back end, and you said, "Hey, I also want to start with back end. Where do you think I should do to be a back end engineer in finance?" You can ask them a question like that as well. But truth be told, guys, it's pretty much besides practice making you making it perfect, it also very much depends on the other person, right? So at the end of the day, here's what I'll tell you. The best thing you can do in terms of marketing yourself of or doing networking is that you should be okay with rejections. Maybe you approach someone, the guy is really grumpy, and maybe he doesn't want to talk as much. That's not your fault, right? So you should just be like, okay, that guy doesn't want to talk. It's fine. I'll talk to the next person. So you just keep rolling, keep your positive attitude. That's what I would tell you. So there's no one answer for everything. So yeah. Okay, so Sue asked how many healthy amount of projects to have for someone applying for fresh junior or mid level. And I would go back to one of my slides, which was quality or quantity. So let's say even if you're a mid level but you've only worked on 5 projects, right? Maybe 5 to 10 projects, but the projects have a lot of depth to it, a lot of features to it, then 5 to 10 projects are good enough. But okay, so let's say I'll give myself as an example. When I first joined as a junior game programmer, I only had 2 projects to show. And when I moved on to uh, software web development, I only had 2 projects as well. When I moved on to the mid level, I only had about 3 to 4 projects. So yeah, so my amount of projects I have wasn't a lot, but it had a lot of things to talk about, a lot of things which gave me experience. So always go for quality or quantity. So yeah, I would say yeah, those are the numbers which I would give. You can even go higher, but as long as you make sure that the quality is there, because there's no point having 20 projects while all of them are very shallow. So yeah. Do you guys have any other questions? There's one last point which I want to make before I end this, is that when you're building pet projects, right, make sure you're building something which excites you, right? That's something which is very important because you need the motivation to keep working on your project. So, for example, let's say you use a Pomodoro app every day, right? Maybe you want to build your own Pomodoro app for yourself, or maybe you want to build your own notepad app, or you want to build your own productivity app. As long, the important thing is that it motivates you, because if you don't have the drive to do it, you're not going to do it properly and you won't have the motivation to complete it. So make sure it's an overlap, something you're interested in and something which will look good in your portfolio as well, right? Okay, so Sue asked me how to keep yourself motivated in doing coding. uh there's quite some answers for this, but okay, I first thing is you must have a passion to actually do coding in the first place. If you're doing coding just purely for as a means of survival, uh, then it's going to be a bit difficult. But okay, I'll answer you how I motivate myself to do coding, right? First, I pick a project which I find exciting, and then I break that into very small steps. And whenever I and a day I only do like 5 or 6 of small steps, and if I do more than that, then it's bonus for me. So for example, if I'm building a to do app, I would say, okay, maybe today I just want to do setting up the project and then building the homepage. Maybe tomorrow I'll build the feature of creating the to do. Then the day after that, I'll do the feature of updating the to do. When you try to do too many things at once, that's when you feel overwhelmed and you won't feel motivated. But if you break your steps down and you work on something you're interested in, you can easily keep yourself motivated and keep on doing. Yeah. Yeah, I would say you you can, yeah, you can say it's something like that. You reward yourself like, okay, because you feel that you have finished your task for the day when you break the thing into smaller steps. So that is when I was way younger. When I was just starting out, I tried to finish one project in one day, which honestly made me very tired, and then I was not able to complete the project. So that is a move you should not do. If you ask me, always break your project into small steps and then do it on a daily basis. Right. So yeah, that's how I would motivate myself. Okay, there's a question from Wafki, which is full stack dev also do design stuff? Most of the time, okay, most of the time, no, that's not the case because honestly, as a front end developer, you'll be implementing the design made by the designer, and honestly, the implementation itself could take some time because you need to make sure it looks exactly like the design. You need to make sure the feature is working. You need to make sure it's optimized, and then you make sure the code is clean. Then if you're writing tests, then you write tests. So imagine you're doing all of this stuff at the same time you're doing designing. It's going to be very hard. There are some people who do designing at the same time as front end development. That is maybe possible, but if you're a full stack dev, I think it's really hard because imagine you have to now do backend. Backend has security, optimization, making sure the features work. So if you're doing front end and backend, most of the time you won't do design. Okay, so there's a question with from, is it I or L? Sorry, I'm not sure. It is, I have been hiatus since I failed training my AI model. Couldn't get the correct data set, don't know where to learn. Okay, so about this, right? I am not a machine learning engineer and I'm not going to pretend to be one. So I can't guide you on this, but we have another mentor which is a machine learning engineer, and I can actually try and tag him here. Can I ask what is okay, so she's asking, I mean, I is asking what is the key point in the portfolio that most recruiters focus on? So to answer that question, it's actually, can you solve their problem? Does your work have any impact? And will you reduce their perceived risk? So if I already I did go through this, but I would go through this a bit more briefly. It's basically if they are hiring you for the position, they want to know if you can actually do the job or not. And based on your portfolio, that's how they determine if you can do the job. I'm making this very brief because I went through this just now. So yeah, if you ask me, this is what I would tell you to focus on: quality or quantity. Don't do too many projects which are shallow. So, yeah. Also, to clarify with you, most recruiters don't look at your portfolio. The one which look at your portfolio are the people who will be interviewing you, like the CTO or the tech lead. Recruiters mostly look for for how do I say, for key points like, oh, 4 years experience in JavaScript, have certificate for this, have 3 years experience in Express.js. That's what recruiters look for. Because recruiters are people who don't actually know much about tech. They just look at keywords. So yeah. So when it comes to portfolio, it's going to be the tech leads and the people who actually are in tech themselves. Yes. That is the reason why I included the career growth section, because I one of the misconception even I had when I was young is that, oh, portfolio will be something recruiters look at, which is not the case. They only look at your portfolio once you have passed through the initial stage of screening. And the initial stage of screening is done through recruiters who look at all these key points and all that stuff. do you meet the criteria? To bypass such criteria is what why you should do networking, in my opinion. So yeah. Yes, it will be something like that. Screening is done by recruiters. Hiring or assessing, I would say. Assessing is a better way to put it. It's done by CTO in or the tech lead or people in tech. So yeah. Okay, so I would say in conclusion, right? Basically have a single place where you can show your portfolio, like this place, Behance, GitHub, GitLab, or building your website. Make the information on it concise. Okay, like who are you, what do you do, and the type of projects you have, your skills. Make the information as concise and easy as possible for someone. Focus on quality over quantity. So instead of building 20 projects, maybe build 10 projects, but build it with increasing difficulty, and then keep improving them. And there's a lot of points I covered in the presentation, but one of the things which I want you guys to remember is always have an active project you're working on. So let's say you're working, you've already done your 10 projects, you've already included in your website. Maybe your 11th project is something you're actively working on. Maybe it's a very big project and you keep working on it on a maybe not to say on a daily basis, but maybe every week you visit it at least twice or three times, because that way you can sort of sharpen your skills and you also have something you can talk about as well. Because when you're working for a company or certain stuff, you cannot talk about it outside of the company. But if you're intern or something, then you can still build a project which you can keep contributing as you are working in your intern company and so on. So yeah, I guess that's the gist of what I'm trying to say. But later Sue will share the slides with you so you can kind of like go through it yourselves as well. So yeah, thank you. You're welcome. All right, bye.